Here on the Field of 68 Media Network. Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors and partners over at Bet Rivers. My name is Rob Dauster. That gentleman that you see there with me, the one and only Da'Sean Butler. We are recording this a little bit early today. It is 11 a.m. on Sunday. I think you guys know there's a pretty big game tonight, something called the Super Bowl. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Da'Sean.
I actually did some research, and I have learned a lot about the Super Bowl and since Thursday. So
Good. I'm glad that you did, because I mean it's like part of American culture, you know. Now that you're back here in the States and not living in Europe anymore, like you kind of, I feel like you need to kind of integrate back into American society.
I mean, I do. I've missed so much. I don't know what's going on. I'm out of the loop, and because of great people like you who take the time to care about me, I learn these things.
I do what I can. All right. I do what I can. Right off the rip. People are going to probably hear this after the Super Bowl. So let's just get those predictions in right now so that they can see how dumb we are. Yeah. I'm on record saying that Kansas City's going to win. Kansas City's going to cover the spread. Pat Mahomes is going to be the MVP. Take the over in everything that you could possibly take the over in. I want a shootout. So that's what I'm hoping for. Maybe I'm just projecting what I want onto what I think is going to happen.
I'll go with that as well, except for Mahomes. I want Mahomes to win, but I think Tom Brady is going to take care of it. I think Tom Brady will be the MVP of the Super Bowl. And I just can't wait to watch a good game, man. Like, I cannot wait. It's going to be so fun to watch.
All right, so we have a lot to talk about today. Obviously, it was a wild Saturday in college basketball. I have hot takes that I got to spew about Tennessee. We have to talk about Texas and their collapse yesterday. We got to talk about Ayo Dosunmu, man. He was unbelievable yesterday afternoon. And of course, I'm going to let you talk your shit a little bit about West Virginia. Make sure that you get to say your piece about your Mountaineers. But before we get into all of that, the first thing that I just want to kind of bounce off of you is I have a theory, Da'Sean. You ready for this? You want to hear my theory?
Talk to me.
I don't think that there is a third best team in college basketball this year. And what I mean by that is this. There is always going to be a team that is the top of that second group of teams, right? That second tier. There's always going to be someone that is like, quote unquote, the third best or whatever, however you want to phrase it. But after Baylor and Gonzaga, I don't think that there's a team in the country that's better than what your typical like 3 seed is, right? So while Baylor and Gonzaga are kind of in a league where they are maybe historically good, like the only teams that in Ken Palm's database, the only teams that have higher adjusted efficiency margins than Baylor and Gonzaga are 2008 Kansas and 2015 Kentucky. The only 2 teams.
Jesus.
So, like, yeah. I think that they're like legit elite good, like historically good, both of those teams. Mm-hmm. But after that, it's just a bunch of teams that are like typical like teams that would be ranked in like the 10 to 15 range, right? So while we're seeing all of these teams that are ranked kind of like in the top 5 losing games, and we have a visitor here.
What's going on?
We have a visitor. Hi, Rivers. Hi, how are you?
What's up, Rivers?
Hold on, give me 1 second. Well, let me jump back on this. So what we have are basically a bunch of teams that are kind of in that like 10 to 15 range. And you know, in a typical year, if you see like a 10 seed or a number 10 team in the country go on the road and lose to a tournament team, like that's not really all that shocking, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like there's a bunch of teams that really aren't great, but are good enough to kind of climb their way up to the top. And that's why we see such like a changeover, right? Like sometimes it's Villanova, but yeah, you know what? They get pressured. They fold a little bit. They can't guard Posh Alexander off the bounce. So Texas, like, look, if they're not shooting, they're not very good.
Exactly.
Houston is kind of, you know, that if you're good enough to roll through the AAC, but you're not good enough to win at East Carolina, how good are you really? So
exactly, you're susceptible to lose to anybody at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Like more so than any like previous years where you have teams that are, when you're in the top 10, usually you expect those teams to take care of business against teams that are below them. And I mean, when you become susceptible to lose games like that, like you just mentioned, it doesn't really hold as much weight to being ranked at those numbers sometimes for everybody, not just Houston, for everybody. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And I think what that's going to mean is that we're going to have a tournament where like it's really wild. Like we're going to see chaos. A bunch of upsets. Yeah, we're going to see a bunch of like 1 season, 2 season, 3 seeds lose pretty early. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see some Cinderellas, and like honestly, in this day and age, like I could really use a great Cinderella story. Like I could really use the Sister Jean moment right now. Like I don't know about you, man, but we need.
That'd be insane. Nah, it'd be awesome. Like I love Cinderella teams, like especially in the tournament. I feel like you said, there'll be a lot of them just because of how, I won't say level the playing field is, but just how not.
No, it's level. Level's the right word.
Would you say level? Because I feel like it's more
the
teams that are considered top teams aren't as consistent, and it creates a level playing field in a sense. Like it has nothing to. I feel like the mid majors and everybody lower, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah, so I think level is the perfect word, because I think like when you go from 3 to like 30. Really, what how much is the difference in those teams, right? Like how much is the difference between like, let's say, it's kind of hard to go with Michigan right now because they're like, we don't know what they're going to be coming out of this shutdown. It's something I'm very concerned about. But let's say just like Illinois or Iowa, what's the difference between them and like Florida or Missouri? Or Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's outside the top third. Like Drake is really good. Loyola is really so. I think it's going to be one of those years where we just see a bunch of like weird shit happening, but that's going to be fun. So we're going to get like some Cinderellas in the tournament. You know what else that means?
What?
It means it's that much more likely that we're going to get Baylor Gonzaga in the national title game, which is what everybody on the planet wants.
This is why they didn't schedule it. I'm still upset about that. There's still a chance, I heard, but I doubt it's going to happen. But if we get the national championship game, I'm not tripping. More power to everybody involved.
I have an idea.
Talk to me.
I don't think it's possible to make this happen, but I think that if we start the movement now, it's something that we can kind of like push for.
Put it into existence.
Speak it into an existence, right? Yeah. So, let me know what you think about this, Da'Sean. If we get to the national title game and we have Baylor against Gonzaga, you know what we need to do?
What?
We got to make that be a 5-game series.
I would
just bubble up in Indy, right? If they get to the final, look, just call an audible, bubble up in Indy. The final four would the final 4 games would be on a Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Playing on Monday, playing on Wednesday, playing on Friday. We could even do a 3-game series. Just bubble up that whole week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 3-game series.
They should let the final four. They should let the final 4 do that. That'd be awesome. I think the final 4 going in a 5-game series would be an awesome for this year, maybe. I think that'd be awesome to have.
I'm in, man. I'm in. So listen,
I'd be worried to give like whoever makes those I'll be worried to see what those other 2 teams would be, and to put them in a 5-game series. Like that'd be against Baylor and Gonzaga.
Hey, look, it'd be sweeps.
Exactly. I was like, that'd be a torture. So you're right. The championship would be better. That's what I said. Never mind.
Yeah, it would be sweeps. Let's be real. All right, so. Yeah, I think we're both in agreement that there's a top 2 and then like there's no one else is number 3.
I can't ever argue that.
And I know Michigan fans, like, look, okay, Michigan fans, I'm not hating on your team, okay? I've had my doubts about them. I'm on record having my doubts about them. It's hard to trust a team that doesn't have a great point guard, and it's hard to trust a team where your big man is a little bit of a throwback big. And I think we can all agree that's what it is. That's a tough name to say. Hunter Dickinson. There you go.
The ERs and then INs every time.
I keep wanting to say Hunter Mickelson, the guy that used to play for Kansas. Remember him?
Nah, actually, I don't. That's what I was going to say. Who was that, by the way?
Yeah, he used to play for Kansas. It was back when you were in Europe, so it's not surprising that you don't know what's going on. So like, look, he's a guy that scores in the paint. He doesn't really stretch the floor. He's not great defending on the perimeter. Like that's just concerning to me when you're going up against teams like Baylor that loves to play those ball screens and Gonzaga that loves to play ball screens. So I always thought Michigan was like a step below them. Even if they were in a tier all by themselves, like I thought they were a step below, but now they've been shut down for 2 weeks, man. We don't know what they're going to be coming back. Look at what St. Louis was when they came back. Look at what Clemson was when they came back from their pause. Like teams react to this stuff differently, right?
So,
like we all thought Villanova was the number 3 team in the country. They come back from their pause, they go to St. John's, and they get blown out. So
and that was like they had a good start, and then all of a sudden you start to see a small collapse there with their scenario. So I mean, yeah.
All right, so let's get into Saturday's action. Talk your shit about West Virginia, Da'Sean. Let me hear it. Tell me what you got to say.
Don't worry about it. I will. My Mountaineers were amazing against Kansas. I feel like if this was any other day, Kansas would have, the way they played, their starting 5 played, they could have won that game. if West Virginia came out and if it was the old West Virginia with Oscar there. But because West Virginia's new style of play with the tons of offense and tons of threes being shot and made, it was very difficult for Kansas to go out there and beat West Virginia in Morgantown. I mean, Ty Sherman played great. Deuce McBride, surprise. I mean, he's super consistent. And obviously Derek Culver went out there and was a beast. I mean, I felt like him and which is strange. I thought he would do a better job against my guy, what's his name? Our big man, David
McCormick.
David McCormick.
Your favorite
my favorite
player?
big, one of my favorite bigs. I thought he would do a good job against David McCormick. Dave gave him a little fight for his money during that game. But they still couldn't stop my Mountaineers. So I wish Jeff got on the on last night. I'm sure he would have had an earful for you.
Yeah. So I mean, look, when Deuce is playing like that, and when someone else is making shots, like West Virginia becomes a very, very, very dangerous team. We talked about this last night on the stream, on Locker Room. On Locker Room. I'm still very concerned about the defensive side of the ball. At some point you're going to run into, like, if you're going to win a national title this year, you're going to make a run to the Final Four, you're going to run into someone like a Baylor or a Gonzaga, and you got to be able to get stops. And I don't know if West Virginia is able to get stops at the level that you're going to need to get stops. But I'll tell you this much, man. Like, if you're putting up 91 points on Kansas and you're putting up 88 points on Texas Tech, like, at some point, maybe it doesn't matter all that much. And where does that get you though? I mean, because we look, they're not a 3-point shooting team. My West Virginia Mountaineers aren't as consistent as Iowa is from three. They have a good post guy, but he's not Luka Garza either. And at the same time, it's just like, how far will that get you? I feel like Taz Sherman, who had a great game last game, can do a better job defensively. For them to be a good team, Taz Sherman, Sean McNeil, the guys that play the wings a ton, Emmett Matthews and Jalen Bridges, those four guys have to be consistent and even beyond consistent defensively for that team to be good. Because, I mean, you're going to get the points normally from Deuce and from Derek. So the other guys have to show a better defensive front. Yeah, what I will say is this. When I think we saw where they would really struggle against Florida when, like, in the second half, like, Trey Mann was getting wherever he wanted and Noah Locke was kind of getting open looks, and West Virginia was not. They went up against a team that kind of could match them, like, athlete for athlete on the perimeter.
Exactly.
And, like, that's exactly what Baylor's going to be able to do, and that's exactly what Gonzaga is going to be able to do. And to be frank, that's exactly what Kansas is able to do. And West Virginia won despite it. They did not. They weren't able to win against Florida. So to me, like, I haven't really changed my take on them. Like, long term, they're dangerous when they're making shots. Like, they could beat anyone. When they're missing shots, like, okay, they're going to have to find another way to win. Will they be able to get to that level of defense where they can find a way to win when they're not making their shots? So I'm in on them. I like them. They're fun. They're way more fun than I thought they were going to be. So I'll give you credit.
Yeah, definitely. I will not argue with that. It's definitely a 180 from what it was the beginning of the season until now. So
before we get into, we're going to talk about Illinois, and we're going to talk about the Texas-Oklahoma State game. We're going to talk about Tennessee. I don't know if we're going to bring up Duke and North Carolina because, like, whatever. Yeah. Like, I don't care.
Did you see Jeff's tweet about whoever loses this game is a first bid for the NIT?
Yeah. So, good is always strolling. But I do want to ask you about, like, the Alabama Missouri ending. So for people that didn't see it, Missouri was up by 20 with 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
How much of that sound is coming through, by the way?
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids, bro. It's kids.
Hold on. I'm gonna have to edit this a bunch.
No worries.
All right. So
you're preaching to the choir.
Now there's crying going on. Exactly. Holy smokes.
It's part of it.
So for people that didn't see it, Alabama was down by 20 with 6 minutes left against Missouri. They go on a 21-2 run. They cut the lead to 66-65, and Nate Oates draws up a great great ATO, sidelines out of bound play, and he gets Herb Jones rolling to the bucket. Herb Jones comes to a jump stop, throws a pump fake. The dude from Missouri, I think it was Drew Smith.
It was Drew Smith.
There's like 17 Smiths on Missouri, and I never I was
like, how did they do that? How did they recruit that?
It's like, none of them are related. There's just like 19 Smiths on Missouri. Yeah, right. So Drew Smith goes up and like he gets his arm straight up, but his body is moving forward, and he lands on Herb Jones' left shoulder and completely knocks him off balance. It's very evident that he knocked him off balance as Herb Jones went up to go for the layup. I thought it was like a very, very clear and obvious foul, and Herb Jones should have absolutely gotten 2 free throws. Nothing was called. Missouri fans were not very happy with my take. Robbie Hummel completely disagreed with me when I asked him about it. So where do you stand on that call, on that whistle? And does Alabama have a right to be upset since they dug themselves a 20-point hole?
To answer that last question, no, Alabama doesn't have a right to be upset. Coach Edos talked about that before, after the game. He was basically saying, we had came out and played the way we played in the second half, we would have won the game. And that's evident. They would have won the game. That second half was amazing. They got a chance to push the ball, and they got aggressive in transition, and they did everything they were supposed to do the second half. I watched the play a couple of times. The possession before Herb gets to the basket, it was kind of like I wouldn't say soft take, but it was just it was a readable take, and he got the shot. I wouldn't say blocked, but it was more like it was defended pretty well. That last possession is a foul. I can't call it anything else, but you can go straight up, and you can say he needs to go up stronger or pump it. You can say anything you want to, but Drew Smith he went straight up and into him with his body. And because he went into him with his body as Herb was in his motion to go up, he hit his body, and he actually, in a sense, Herb didn't even get a chance to go directly into him. As he was going up, his body got hit as he was going up, and it threw his body off. It should have been a foul. He should have got his free throws, but it just didn't work out that way, which sucks because they ended up losing their first game in conference. And in my mind, he goes to the free throw line, he knocks those free throws down there. He's a good player, he's a good shooter.
Yeah,
they dug themselves in that terrible hole, man.
Yeah.
It was just terrible. That first half, it was bad.
I do think that it was absolutely a foul. The big thing is Drew Smith tries to make the right play, but his body, his momentum is moving forward, and he lands on Herb Jones' shoulder, and he can't go up strong. That's a foul. That's a foul every single time.
And I don't see how the baseline referee and the sideline referee that's there don't see that call. Because every camera wise, and I get it. People make mistakes. There was a lot of referee mistakes yesterday, by the way, 4 in West Virginia's game. But that angle. As you're a referee and someone's getting a ball screen or someone's rolling to the basket on that right side, the referee's near the coach's box. You can see what's going on from that coaching box and the baseline. The referee was there on the baseline. It's a difference between running over and standing straight up or running over and jumping straight up. And then your momentum of coming over as hard as Drew came over, and his momentum took him into his body. It disrupted Herb's body, not even the shot, his body. So it's just
and here's the other thing about it. Here's the thing that frustrates me the most about this. If Herb Jones was shooting a 3 and that happened, he'd be on the line and no one would have any.
Exactly.
No one would have any questions about it. He'd be on the line shooting three free throws.
That's a fact.
But it's so that's frustrating, and I would understand if Nate Oates is very, very frustrated. I thought he was going to get lit up the way he argued. He went sprinting on the court to go talk to him about it. I thought he was going to get lit up. But the other part of it is they did not deserve to win that game.
Nah, right?
man. You dig yourself a 20-point hole and have to rally like that. Yes, it's incredible, but for 36 minutes you played like dog shit. You're not. So I understand why he's mad, and they probably should have gotten that call. But if you don't play like dog shit if you don't play like dog shit for 30 minutes instead of 34 minutes, for 30 minutes, if you have 4 extra minutes of good basketball, you win that game because you don't run out of time at the end. So
what did you think of the coverage of Tillman? They did a good job on Tillman in the second half, only because they missed shots and then they were able to run and they doubled a little bit better. But I feel that kind of got them in a damn hole almost. Initially, he got going, and then all of a sudden, then after he made a couple shots, and then they stopped him a little bit. Kobe Bryant started it was a. It got bad.
I thought in the first half, you can like point to different little things like, oh, they didn't get this coverage right, they didn't get that coverage, but just overall, it's like they were moving in molasses, right? It's like they had boots on instead of basketball shoes on. So like everything was a step slow, every read was a step slow. So it's also the second time that they started like that on a road at an 11 o'clock local time tip. So like I can understand why it would be tough for a bunch of college kids to play an early morning game like that. On the road in an era and where you are like this is weighing on everybody, right? Like everybody is kind of going through it right now, and everybody is like, okay, like this is a grind. The season is a grind. We have a 3-game lead on everybody in the SEC. Like, do I really want to go to Missouri and play an 11 a.m. I can understand why they'd be like, okay, like this is a lot. This is much, but like you got to be able to get up for those. Yeah. So like I get it. It makes sense to me, but like it's still a little bit of a concern that you've had some of those slow starts. All right.
Yeah.
Another game in the SEC that I want to talk about. I'm going to go with Tennessee first because I think Tennessee is back. Like I'm cautiously optimistic about what we saw against Kentucky. And here's why. Tell me what you think about this. So we've talked over and over and over about how the big concern for this team is they don't have that alpha. They don't have that go-to guy. I called him the Band-Aid man, right? They don't have that guy that can stop the bleeding when you need.
I like that term.
They hit you like that. And we've been waiting for one of Jaden Springer or Keon Johnson to kind of develop into that guy. On Saturday night was the first time we saw both of them just absolutely take over a game. Yeah. They were so good in the final 8 minutes, and they were great for the entire second half. Keon Johnson had 27. Jaden Springer had 23. Like they looked every bit the part of like these great potential lottery picks. And look, I know Kentucky sucks. I'm not saying that they're good, but it's like you have to start somewhere, right? Like you can't just. I was on with Dane Bradshaw on like the Big Volin pod, and he was like, against Ole Miss at the end of the game, with down by 2 on the last possession, Keon Johnson took the ball, drove right to the rack, went up, and drew a foul. Goes to the free throw line, 3.5 seconds less, down 2, bricks his first free throw. And he's like, it's disappointing that he missed that shot, but it's very, very important that he took that free throw and he got that free throw. Because because you have to learn, like you don't just like wake up being like a go-to guy that can handle these. Like you want to have a guy learn how to what it takes to take over a game. You want him to understand that he can do it in those situations, and you want him to know the experience of like having pressure free throws in Bart. So like it was bad for that moment, but it's good. It was good for his growing process. That's what Dane was saying, and I agree with that. And so it's not just that we saw them take over, but it's also that we saw them do it while Rick Barnes went with the small lineup. And I think what he has to do moving forward is play Eves at the 5, play Josiah Jordan-James at the 4, get Keon and Jaden on the wings, and then get like Victor Bailey and Santi Vescovi out there and kind of roll through like their 4 wings and keep Eve at the 5. Like spreads the floor, creates driving lanes. John Fulkerson has not been very good this year. It takes him out of the paint, clogging things up. Take EJ Anasicki out of the paint, clogging things up. And then just let your guards go out and make plays. Like I think that's kind of what you have to do. So I think we kind of saw it all come to fruition on Saturday night in the second half. But again, the huge thing for me was that Keon and Jaden stepped up. What's the line from that? Remember that old YouTube video? He put the team on his back, though. Greg Jennings. He put the team on his back. That's what Keon Johnson did. He put the team on his back.
He definitely did, man. I was like super impressed with that team. I was super impressed with the win, like more or less how they won. It's funny. I traded Keon Johnson, and then he has this game. I have to see if I can get him back. But Tennessee scouting report initially was kind of shaky in the first half because it seemed like they were like, all right, we're going to live with Kentucky just hoisting up threes. Like we'll make sure we keep them out of the paint area, and if they get shots, we'll live with it. And Kentucky made shots. So, but the thing is, Tennessee was so like physical. Like at one point, like Lance Ware and Anasicki got into it. They ended up getting double fouls. Like Tennessee was like super physical the entire time. They were like at the bonus like with 14 minutes left and shit like that. Like they were beating Kentucky up. And then it led to into the second half. They kept that same thing, and Kentucky and them were going back into it. But then Kentucky started getting more and more fouls, and then I had to take a little step back. They weren't as aggressive. So now they weren't as aggressive. They weren't shooting. They didn't play as well the second half as like they did the first half. And now it was impossible to keep like I think they said something along the lines of Springer and Johnson. They had 12 points straight together, and then they had a 12-0 run themselves later on. Like they were unstoppable in the second half to the point where they couldn't keep Springer out of transition or the paint. Like he did anything he wanted. Johnson caught the ball on the like kind of the wing corner area, in and out cross, drive, dunks. Like they did whatever they wanted in the paint. And they didn't even shoot the ball well from beyond the arc during this game, but they beat Kentucky in everything else. Almost.
Yeah, I mean that's so to me like this is not proof that Tennessee's back, right? Or back to being whatever I thought they were. But it's
a good track though. Yes.
This is the direction that they needed to take. This is the step that they needed to take. This is who they needed to be. Now we're not going to be able to see them on Wednesday against Florida because Florida has more COVID issues. But next Saturday they're playing LSU at LSU, and that's going to be the game where it's like, okay, you know, if Tennessee's back, if Tennessee is going to be a team that is legitimately in the mix for the SEC, like I guess they're not going to beat Alabama out, but in the mix for second place in the SEC, legitimately like a second weekend Elite Eight kind of a team, you go into LSU and you beat them up. That's what you do this year.
Who do you have that game?
Who do I think Tennessee will win. Like, why
I think
would
Tennessee will. I think they have. I think there's so much more. Pick it? I was just curious. I just want to say because I think I think Tennessee is too disciplined. I think LSU is going to get into like letting the kids just go out there. And,
I've rolled with it for this long, man. Like I'm not jumping off the bandwagon now.
I just want to make sure. I want to see where you are. That's all. I've seen you move a little bit sometimes. You know, sometimes you move. So I just want to
say. Only when impressed by Robbie. That's it. All right, so I guess like we got to talk about Ayo and that performance that he had against Wisconsin. Like 21 points, 12 boards, 12 assists, third triple double in program history.
Yeah.
So the thing that really threw me was like the live dribble passing that he was like the passes that he made.
Yeah.
Like he had a couple in the second half where he comes off a ball screen going right and he's going full steam ahead towards the paint and just throws a no look, one hand fucking frozen rope to Trent Frazier in the opposite corner. And like that is such a high level. I mean, you could attest this to like that is such a high level pass that not only being able to make that read, but to come off the live dribble like and just snap it like that right on the money. Like that's and get it there. Like it's such a high level pass, and Ayo, like I just love Ayo so much.
Facts.
And I don't understand. Like I think Illinois has the best inside outside combo in college basketball with Ayo and Kofi. I think that when they're able to hide Kofi on the defensive end like they were against Wisconsin, they are as dangerous as any team in college basketball. I think that they have the guards to be able to match up at least size wise with Baylor and Gonzaga moving forward.
Yeah.
But like they can get to a Final Four. Like I don't know if they can win a national title, but they can absolutely get to a Final Four and they can play with Gonzaga and Baylor. We've seen them play with Baylor. Mm-hmm. But like the bigger thing to me is Ayo. Like I don't understand. I see him in second round of draft boards and I don't get it. Like I don't understand what NBA teams are looking for out of him. He's 6'5". He's got the wingspan. He's got the work ethic. He's shooting 41% from three this year. He's got the pass. Like we know he's got the passing in his bag, right? We know he's a clutch shot maker. Like I don't, for the life of me, understand like why would if you give me Ayo Dosunmu in like the late 20s, like that is to me that's a steal. You're getting a guy that's going to help an NBA team right away. I don't understand why people have him in the second round.
I mean, they could have him there. I don't think that he'll go there. So. It's like that. Like especially once they get into workouts and so on and so, like you'll see. Like I can't see him going into the second round. He's a first rounder. Like he does too much, and and on that team he does too much. And now you'll have him on a team with pros around him. His job, the job that he has in Illinois, when he goes to the pros, like he doesn't have to do as much. All he has to do is the things that he can do now. He doesn't have to sit there and worry about friggin' doing a ton of rebounding. He'll still rebound, but he won't have to worry about doing a ton of those things. And like you just focus on coming off ball screens, making plays for himself and his team, being the great playmaker that he is, and being amazing in transition. Like he'll focus on those things and he'll be fine. Like, so
yeah. If you were going to tell me that, that the concern you have is that he's a ball dominant lead guard in college, I don't know if he's necessarily talented enough to be a ball dominant lead guard at the NBA level. So you're concerned about him having to kind of play like a complementary role off the ball, and you don't buy the jump shot, don't buy the catch and shoot stuff. Then like, okay, I get it. I get it. And that's part of the reason why, like, I'm not saying why the guy that's averaging 22, 6, and 5 for a top 5 team in college basketball, that's why he's going late second round. It's because of those things. It's baked into the price of what you're paying for him as a draft pick, right? Like if he was a great catch and shoot guy, like he'd be a top 10 pick.
He wouldn't be back.
He wouldn't be in college right now.
Talking about him today. Like,
yeah. So it's baked into the price. So I just don't get it, man. I love Ayo. No, I think I'm an Ayo stan. Like he's so good, man.
No, he's very good, man. It's also good to see like a great basketball player like him, a great college basketball player like him, be such a really good guy as well. Like he's all around. Like so, I'm happy to see him doing well. That game, bro, was insane. Like they tried at least 3 or 4 different coverages on him. Like they had
none of them worked, man.
They had wall guarding him at one point. I was like, yo, they're doing everything. Like they had they couldn't stop him. And then when Kofi got going early too, and you can't keep him from just manhandling you. Like it's only so much you can do. And I thought Wisconsin had enough guys to throw at Kofi to like slow it down a little bit. I thought they were going to put him in more ball screens than they did. Dimitri Trice had a solid game. I thought he played well. I just think he didn't put Kofi in as many ball screens as he could. I think,
but that's not what Wisconsin does. Like that.
Yeah, but
so I was thinking the same thing.
I feel like as a coach, it's like, all right, I know this guy has trouble in ball screens, so why not put my best offensive ball screen player, my best perimeter player, in ball screens to make it difficult for him. I feel like and that's why I can't blame Dimitri Trice for that. I feel like they got too much into the handoff stuff on the perimeter. And then all of a sudden you have somebody else with the damn basketball off of a ball screen. And Kofi sometimes didn't even have to, like, they didn't even get into it really. Like it was, and Kofi just murdered them on the offensive end. Just bullied them. Yeah. Like, it was bad.
Yeah. Last thing I'll ask you about the Big Ten, and then we can move on and we can talk about Texas, and then we can get the hell out of here and get ready for the Super Bowl. So to me, Wisconsin's out of the conversation for best team in the Big Ten. I didn't think that they were in a conversation heading into the season, and I just like it's not working.
They've been impressive from what we thought. Like I personally thought they were going to be. Like honestly, I thought they would be bad, and they were far from that. Like, but they're not good.
They're a good team, but they're like a 4 or 5 seed.
4 or 5 seed, which is good. Which is good.
It's good, but it's
not what. I mean, what they're striving to be, obviously. Yeah. They're not that.
So gun to head, who makes it the furthest in the NCAA tournament? Who's the best team in the Big Ten? We got Illinois, we got Ohio State, we got Michigan, and we got Iowa. Out of those 4 teams, give me the power rankings. Rank them right now.
So we're gonna go with Iowa. I'm gonna go Iowa furthest. Out of excuse me, my bad. Michigan's there. Excuse me. Michigan first, Iowa second. Then I'd have to go with Illinois. Then I'd have to go with Ohio State last. Like if I had to pick, I feel like Michigan will go further. Michigan, as in comparison to most teams in college basketball, I look at them like I look at Texas. Like they're a more well-rounded team. They have more players. They're definitely a good starting 5, and they got good pieces coming off the bench. I feel like they have a more well-rounded team. Granted, the point guard spot isn't the greatest, but it's still good. It's solid. I'm not gonna hold you. It's not the greatest, but it's a pretty good. It's like good solid players there at the guard spots. I look at Iowa offensively. They would be. I said first at first, not even thinking. But defensively, like Michigan is infinitely better than Iowa defensively, and I just feel like
I think me and you out there might be better than
exactly.
Iowa defensively.
And it's just like as great as their offense is, and having the player of the year on their team and 3-point shooters everywhere, like they'll give you that high scoring thing and they'll outscore a lot of teams. But I just I see them falling behind Michigan in that sense. Ayo and Kofi and Adam Miller and these guys, they're a great team. When everything's clicking, they're basically just as good, if not better, than Michigan. But things have to click, and they don't have a consistency of having those things click. They either have issues defensively in ball screens, like we talked about. They get stagnant in offense sometimes, and if Ayo's off, it's tough for Kofi. Like Kofi will probably get his numbers of rebounding and he'll get points, but it's even tougher for him to get going when Ayo and the other guards, Trent Frazier, these guys don't get going as well. Like because now like people can key in on him because those guys aren't on or aren't making shots or it's difficult for them to score. So in the half court. But for Illinois to be a great team, they got to be great in transition and they got to get Kofi going and they have to be great in the half court so that they can find Kofi as well. And if those things don't happen, it's just tough for them.
I would rank them. I would take Illinois and Ohio State, and I would put them combined at number one. I just think like I maybe Ohio State is a little bit better because they like in that specific matchup because they could pull Kofi away from the basket. But I think overall Illinois is a better team. If that makes sense. Like I think Illinois will be better. All right, so I would take Michigan, what they were before the shutdown would be number one. Michigan right now, I'll slot them at number 3 just because like we don't know what they're going to be.
You think they'll fall that far? Possibly. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
Like, you can't even imagine the worst case scenario. Like I think that if they come out and they drop like 2 games, like or 3 games. I still don't think that'll affect what they're going to be when they get going.
Maybe, but it's also like. In the middle of the season, they're like in a hotel room for 2 weeks. Like these guys are what Michigan, like the state of Michigan basically said, like you guys cannot go work out. You cannot have practices. You cannot do all of the stuff that you were going to do. So like, think about how much shape you lose when you
got to get your ass out of Michigan.
Yeah, like
got to get them to another state.
Yeah, right. It's tough, man. So like, I don't know, and it's something that's probably like to me. That's one of the biggest storylines as we move forward in the season. Like, what is Michigan going to be when they come out of this pause? So we'll see. There's I don't think anyone can possibly know. It's just one of those things. Like we'll see what happens when they play their first game. And then I was fourth for me, a clear fourth, just because I can't trust a team that can't guard. It's just that simple.
Some form of defense.
Yep. All right. Let's last thing before we get out of here. Texas. That was. Cade Cunningham played the worst game that he could possibly play. He was 5 for 22 from the floor, made a lot of bad turnovers, a lot of bad decisions. Like it was basically like the nut low that we'll ever see Cade Cunningham play. Just so happens that Texas was even worse as a team. They shot 25% from the floor. They were 5 for 35 from 3, and they were 0 for 12 from the floor in 2 overtimes. 0 for 12 from the floor in 2 overtimes. Do you know how hard that is to do?
No, that's like, somebody's got to foul someone. You got to get a bucket somewhere, or you got to get a excuse me. Still, it was pretty bad, bro.
Are you worried about Texas?
No, I just feel like Texas at its like floor to me. Like if the guys aren't making shots like against Oklahoma State, obviously if they're playing on the Big 12, it's a tough conference. But like if they go into the tournament and at the floor, they're bigger, stronger, faster than most teams, and I feel like they can. Because they're that much bigger than most teams, they can still find a way to win games. But them at their ceiling, obviously, like they're an elite team. So I'm not really worried about Texas from here on out. It's just a matter of them not dropping too many games, like from here on out. Like that was like that overtime like you just brought up was pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, so here's my thing.
It was brutal,
right?
It was brutal to watch almost in a sense.
Yeah. Right? So my thing on it is that Oklahoma State has been pretty good playing this zone. They have they have length and they have athletes, and Mike Boynton has gotten them to kind of move the way that you want to move. And the thing about a zone is like when the ball swings around a perimeter and you catch a shot and you have to go into it like that, as opposed to having the ball come to you and just going straight up, when you have to like turn your body, that's a tougher shot. And I think that they got some open looks, but those are tough shots to make. But that's kind of baked into what like Oklahoma State's trying to do. Still, it doesn't excuse shooting 5 for 35. 5 for 35,
nah.
And entering
ridiculous.
Yeah, entering the season or entering this game of Big 12 play, they were shooting 37% from 3, right? Like Courtney Ramey, Andrew Jones, and Matt Coleman were a combined 3 for 26 from 3. But like Courtney Ramey entered, he was shooting almost 50% from three. Like Andrew Jones was shooting 35% from three during this game. Matt Coleman was shooting like 34% from three. So it's not like those guys were bad shooters before this. They're good shooters that missed shots. And they got their shots and they held Cade Cunningham in check. Like Cade Cunningham is awesome. So to me, if you look at it, right, like the loss to Texas Tech, they've lost 4 of their last 5, which is why people are worried. Well, the loss to Texas Tech was kind of fluky because they blew a lead down the stretch and Mac McClung made a shot. The loss at home to Oklahoma came without their head coach, without Jericho Sims, without Courtney Ramey, right? They lost at home to Baylor. A lot of people are going to lose at home to Baylor. Yeah. And then they lose at Oklahoma State in a night where they don't make shots. Like, to me, this says as much about what the Big 12 is as it does anything specifically about Texas. So, I mean, they got Kansas State on the road coming up. Then they got TCU at home. Win those 2 games, get right. Then you go to Oklahoma, and then you have Iowa State next. So 3 of their next 4 are very, very winnable. You should be able to get right for the home stretch.
Tell me what you think about Oklahoma State zone. I love it. Reason being, I wish more coaches would do this in their zone, especially if they have, how can I put it? They're all around the same height, 1 through 4. If you have big guards, like a big point guard or a big 2 guard, they keep Cade and Isaac Likely in the back, and they keep the other 2 guards up. And once their big man rebounds the ball, they're getting it to their point guards off the rim. I love the way it's on, because now that you can push and transition immediately. It's a little bit different when you have your big forward or in your big 3 man in the back of the 2-3, because now the guards have to come from the top of the zone back to get the ball and then go. Like, it kind of like keeps them moving, and it gives them a lot of the transition points that they like to get. It gets them going. I like their zone, man.
Yeah, it's good. So the thing about a 2-3 is like you need athletes to be able to move like that, right? Especially that it's a little bit like a matchup 2-3 that they kind of play. But if you have athletes that can kind of get around and move on the perimeter, and you could turn it into something where like you will guard your man in a spot, and it's basically like switching where whoever is guarding the next pass. There's really not all that much difference functionally in how that defense works. So, I mean, it's good. It's tough. Like Mike Boynton's got them playing hard, and when you can play hard, you have Cade Cunningham, and then guys like Caleb Boone step up on nights when Cade isn't playing well. They're good. Oklahoma State's a good team. Facts. Sometimes, like we said earlier, you could be a top 5 team this year and lose on the road to a team that's kind of like an 8-9 seed game kind of a team, like Oklahoma State probably is. And it's not all that weird because there's really not all that much difference between them. Yeah. So I'm not worried about Texas, but it's with the context that like they are what you would normally expect, like a top 10 to 15-ish kind of team to be.
Yeah, they're blended in. That's a good point, bro.
All right, Day. Well, listen, man, this was fun. I am going to go get ready for the Super Bowl, and I'm going to go try to control the chaos that is going on in my house.
Don't try to control it. Don't try to control it. Just get out there and start yelling, man. Have a good time. The rest of the Super Bowl Sunday, man.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go start running around. Get these kids tired.
Exactly.
Get them ready for nap time. All right, bro. We will see you guys again.
Sir.
Make sure, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. Go sign up with Bet Rivers. They are our sponsors in this. And then, we'll see you guys next Thursday.
And make sure
Locker Room.
Download
Locker Room. Download Bet Spurts. And here's what you got to do. See you again on Thursday. Bring a beer. Beers and Ball podcast.